Hello, Jenny Murray, welcoming you to Thursday's edition of the Woman's Hour podcast. Good morning. The former singer of the band Lost Prophets is now serving 35 years for child sex abuse. The woman who shopped him to the police and ended up accused of paedophilia herself, Joanne Mjadzelics, tells her story now she's been clear of all charges. Today's political party looking to bring more women to Westminster is Plaid Cymru. What do you do if you know you never want children? Helen Brockwell has been refused sterilisation in her 20s 4 times. Should the NHS go along with what she wants? And from the archive, Eartha Kitt on that voice and the feline image. At the end of 2013, Ian Watkins, the former lead singer of the band Lost Prophets, was found guilty of child sex offences. He's serving a 35-year sentence. His crimes were uncovered by a woman with whom he'd had a relationship, Joanne Mjadzelics. He'd sent her images of children and she reported him to the police. But then she too was accused of possessing indecent images of children and encouraging and assisting the distribution of an indecent image of a child. Well, on the 14th of January this year, she was found not guilty of all the charges against her. But how has she coped with being accused of such a terrible crime when she had simply been trying to bring the perpetrator to book? Well, I spoke to her earlier and she told me how she first met Watkins.
One of my friends was playing one of the Lost Prophets tracks on one of their pages online, and I thought, oh, that sounds good. I wonder what that band is. So I looked at the Lost Prophets page, and they were claiming to be really good live and won loads of awards and everything. And I thought, well, I've never seen a band live, so maybe this is the band to see. So I simply messaged the band, just intending to get tickets for a gig. That was it. And then the messages came back quite sexual, and it put me off, to be honest. So I didn't have any contact for a few months. And then I found out that the band was having a gig in Leeds, which is an area that I'd moved up to, close to Leeds. And I thought, oh, I'll message the band again because they'd all sold out. So this guy messaged me back, it turned out to be Ian, and said, oh, here's my instant message details. Add me and I'll tell you how you can get on the guest list. And that's how it began, really. We exchanged contact details and that's how it began.
So how did you come to actually meet him face to face? What happened?
He put me on the guest list for this show in Leeds. And we met beforehand because we'd been talking by this time for quite some time online. And we'd got to know each other, really. And I thought, oh, he's quite intelligent and he's quite funny. So we clicked. So we arranged to meet at the hotel before the gig.
And what happened there?
Well, we had sex.
That was quick.
Yeah, it was very quick. But we clicked. It was instant attraction. We just clicked. And then I went to the gig afterwards, and it was quite strange because I was wanting tickets for this gig, but when I got to the gig, I thought, oh, I'm glad I didn't pay for this. It just wasn't my thing after all. So I just knew him as Ian. I knew him as the guy that looked after his family and paid all the bills and looked after his sick mum. That's how I knew him. I didn't know him as the rock star or anything.
Now, you met up with him, I think, over the following years, only about 15 times.
Yeah.
How serious, then, would you say the relationship was?
Not very, but I did fall in love with him because he was very manipulative, very charming, drew you in. He had this way of making you believe anything that he told you, making you believe that you were very special to him and you were the only one. And but he said this to everyone, it turns out. And obviously when you're in that moment, when you're feeling that special girl, you don't realise that there's all these others that he's saying the same thing to. It's not until afterwards that you realise that. So he was just very manipulative, very, very charming, and he charmed the pants off anyone.
So when did you first become worried about his behaviour? What did he do that concerned you?
It was what he would say. It was not quite a year after meeting him, so it was towards the end of 2007, and he started telling me he started showing off really about how he would take the virginity of his young fans, of his 14-year-old fans, and it would upset me. So I'd tell him to stop talking about it because it would upset me. And he would laugh it off and say, I'm only joking, not really. And then sometime later he'd start to tell me that he wanted to have sex with an 11-year-old. Again, this would upset me even more because my son at the time had just turned 11. And again, he would laugh it off and say that he was joking. But then at the very end of 2007, he started making references to a very young girl, 4 years old at the time. And he started saying what he wanted to do to her. He wanted to babysit for her, take a bath with her, and do various things with her, which I'm not going to go into detail about, but very disturbing. And I asked him why, and he said, oh, you know what young girls are like? They're very flirty. And I said, how can she be super flirty? She's 4 years old. And it worried me.
But, I mean, he kept on saying, didn't he, that he was joking. What was it that convinced you that maybe he wasn't joking?
That same month, December 2007, Christmas Day, he sent an email to me. And in that email were some photographs. And the first couple of photographs were of a car, so nothing untoward there. But also in the same email were pictures of this little girl. And the little girl, in the images, there weren't anything, they weren't pornographic, there weren't anything depicting child abuse or anything like that. But one of the images, it was, I have to say that it appeared to be cocaine. I have to say that because the police have dismissed it to be possibly talc or something like that. There was a line of what appeared to be cocaine on a wall tile, you know, a tile that you put on the wall, a wall tile, and a razor blade next to that. And in her other hand was a rolled up £20 note. So it's depicting as if this 4-year-old has got cocaine paraphernalia. And he said to me that when he took that image, he had touched her inappropriately and rubbed cocaine on her gums.
So why didn't you go to the police straight away when that happened?
He said that he said that it was a joke, it was a posed picture, it wasn't real. And I was, at the time, I was very heavily into taking cocaine myself. And it wasn't until after I stopped doing that some months later, until the springtime, that I realised I suddenly started remembering and recording things and thinking about things in a different way and thinking, oh my God, everything that's been said, everything that's been done, I've got to do something about this. And that's when I started saying to him, I've got to tell someone, I've got to go to the police. And he started begging me not to. He started telling me that he wanted to make me part of his business. Emotional blackmail, telling me he wanted me to meet his mum and telling me his mum had been asking after me and how could I do this to him, and really just laying it on thick.
So
and then he cried.
Once the police started investigating him, what happened to you?
The police didn't actually investigate him when I first reported him. I first reported him in 2008. And I walked away for 2 years. I didn't have anything to do with him. I didn't even look him up on Google or anything because I didn't want to know. And I walked away thinking, I've left it to the police. And then I found out a few months later that the police were closing the investigation. They didn't even knock on his door. And it took them 3 months just to take my statement. He'd hidden everything, all his computers and everything at a friend's house. So basically he'd covered his tracks.
Once the police did start to investigate, what happened to you?
I walked away at first when I reported him at first. And then when he sent the images to me in 2011, I contacted the police straight away. And not only that, I went to the police in total 5 times about these images. So I don't know why they charged me with these images, because 2 officers had actually seen one of the images as well.
What did you say to them when they charged you?
I actually said to them, go ahead, charge me, because this will give me a trial. This will give me my day in court, and then the truth will come out, because this is the only way the truth will come out. I welcomed it. I wanted to have my day in court because I knew the truth, and I knew that the truth would come out, and the only way for it to come out would be for me to go through that hell.
But
I
why
knew that.
why do you think they didn't believe you when you said, no, these are not my images, they're his, they've been sent to me by him?
Oh, they knew that he'd sent them to me. They knew that, but I think they just charged me because I had them on my phone.
So what concerns did you have as the case started to come to trial? You know, you had a son, you have family. What impact did you think it was going to have on all of them?
I thought that my father wouldn't speak to me ever again because my name's been dragged through the mud for a year, which is obviously his name. My son, I've told him to keep away from the internet for so many years anyway. He doesn't go on the internet. But my dad, I spoke to my dad for the first time in a long time the other day, and he said he's really proud, which made me cry because I thought he wouldn't want to speak to me, but he said he's really proud of everything.
What sort of reaction did you get from the public?
Really good. I had a lovely old couple come up to me the other week, and they just made a point of coming up to me and saying, "Oh, we saw you on the news. Oh, we're so glad that you got found not guilty, but we're disgusted with the police for treating you like that and not doing anything about him." You know, a lovely old couple didn't need to do that, but they went out of their way and said that to me. And people on Facebook have been nothing but kind. And it's only these Watkins fans who have been really hateful.
Now, being accused of being a paedophile or assisting a paedophile has got to be one of the worst things that can happen to anybody. What impact has it had on you long term?
It has. Well, on top of this, it has been 7 years of hell, really. On top of the 7 years that I've had fighting against him, when you add this on top of it, it has devastated me, really. But I've fought through it, you know. I've come out of it the other end, but it does destroy you because what chance has anybody got of getting a job or having a normal life when you've had this stigma over you and your name's been in the paper, the road where you live has been in the paper, you know?
So how are you going to rebuild your life now that part of it is resolved?
I don't know. I have a meeting with the council this afternoon. They want to speak to me about my plans to help rape victims and street sex workers. So that's one step in the right direction. But as for everything else, I don't know. It's one step at a time, I suppose. Once your name's been in the paper and your picture's all over the paper and you've been dragged through the mud, how do you start again?